There was a much more balanced approach. Too much emulated U.S. law. I was wondering if you rethink your approach if you're back in government.
Well, Bill C-61 has, of course, died on the order paper, so it no longer exists. And I always said that whatever bill is introduced with respect to copyright will have to be brought to a parliamentary committee. There have to be extensive discussion about it. As you know, copyright law is complex.
Very much.
It's important framework legislation for our country, for sure. And we have international obligations that apply to copyright legislation. But we need a balanced approach. We need to ensure that we adhere to the treaties that we've signed, but we also need to take into account developments elsewhere. And so we've adopted with the previous bill that kind of an approach, and I'm not going to speculate on what the next minister may choose to do, the Minister of Industry may choose to do with respect to the new bill. But
well, I hope
thank you very much.
Approach, but thank you.
You're welcome.
But shouldn't the government respect Canadian and actually ask Canadian what they should, what we think first before the government actually go ahead? Like, and you are the handler, so. Yeah.
Certainly. There have been 3 parliamentary committees that have examined copyright legislation.
But those are long before the iTunes days and iPod days, though, right?
Excuse me, I can only answer the question if you allow me to answer the question.
I will.
Thank you. There have been 3 parliamentary committees that have dealt with copyright legislation and the importance of reform of copyright legislation. There have been 2 international treaties signed. And certainly copyright legislation it's important that it be balanced. It is important that it respect the rights of consumers and the rights of creators as well. That's the challenge of structuring copyright legislation. And certainly parliamentary committee will have to be an essential part of that.
But what's wrong?
The way in which I've seen it.
But what's wrong with consulting with Canadian first, though?
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Great. After the last election, you folks gave $1,500 for parents to help kids with sport.
Right.
Right? And now you've given $400 for art. Why is sport more than 3 times more important than art?
I think you're confusing the $1,500
which was to help kids get involved. Which was to help kids get in.
It's $100 per month.
Right. Which $1,200 is it a year?
It's $100 per month. A child tax credit for children under the age of 6. That is quite distinct from what you're talking about as the deductibility. Similar in terms of the targets to Canada. Canadian legislation is arguably a little tougher, but they are proposing standards which are quite similar to each other.
So it's going to be
very similar.
It's going to be on the federal level of the U.S. or state level? Because each state has
national. We're speaking of national standards.
So if California has a better environmental laws, then we won't be exporting to California.
Well, it's fair to say that what is happening in the United States is that they're evolving towards national standards, and I'm simply saying that those standards are seemingly going to be quite clear.
They're very critical.
And you consulted obviously with industry before you went ahead and decided on stopping exports.
That's not correct. I didn't say that.
So you just decided to do it willy-nilly because it's a big issue?
I don't think I said that either, but thank you.
I just have a quick question.
Yes, sir.